If you're a budding gardener ready to grow your green thumb or a seasoned horticulturalist, you can always learn something new from other like-minded gardeners and gurus. And the experts at Green Acres are teaming up with a master gardener to spark conversations and offer gardening advice to help you bloom. Fred Hoffman, also known as Farmer Fred, is here now to help us grow and tell us all about his new podcast that's specifically for Northern California gardeners. Hi, Farmer Fred.
Good morning. Glad to talk to you from my greenhouse.
Oh, very cool. You're out there in the greenhouse. So why are you doing a podcast, and who is this for?
Well, the podcast is for Northern California gardeners. I've often said that all gardening is local, and I'm glad to be doing a podcast with Green Acres for Northern California gardeners. Green Acres Nursery and Supply has 5 stores in the Sacramento area. You have Sacramento, Elk Grove, Folsom, Rockland, Roseville, and soon Citrus Heights and Auburn. So the Green Acres Garden Podcast with Farmer Fred is really aimed at budding gardeners and people who just want to learn some new gardening tips and tricks. It's sort of a complement to the other podcast I do, the Garden Basics with Farmer Fred podcast, which is geared towards a national gardening audience. But I'm thrilled to be associated with Green Acres. They are a very popular nursery chain. People love their friendly, knowledgeable employees, and their selection is fabulous.
Yeah, so are gardeners often on podcasts? I mean, is that the go-to place for all your gardening questions on a podcast?
In this day and age, yes, it is. It's sort of, there's not much difference between podcasting and broadcasting. Podcasting just doesn't have the BRA. But with podcasting, you can be more in depth. You can talk to more gardeners this way. And I also like editing myself, so I take out all the ums and uhs and sneezes and coughs.
I hear you there. So as you mentioned, you partnered with Green Acres Nursery for this, which sounds like a really good fit. Tell us a little bit about the history behind Green Acres in Sacramento.
Green Acres Nursery has been around for easily more than a decade, back into the mid-1990s, actually. And I remember when they first opened up in Roseville, and then they added stores in Folsom, Elk Grove. Let's see, then there was the Sacramento store. They took over Matsuda's there at Jackson and Florin Perkins, and they keep expanding. And it looks like the Gill family is going to have some more great nurseries, especially partnering with Isley's Nursery up in Auburn, which is a time-honored family nursery up in the Auburn area. And the Gills and the Isleys are forming a great team to bring Green Acres up into Auburn as well. And as I mentioned, soon to be in Citrus Heights at San Juan and Greenback. So it just keeps growing, and there's more and more interest in gardening from new gardeners. We saw this happening last year.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I started the Garden Basics podcast last March. Was I was hearing from seed distributors and nurseries and wholesalers who were saying, we're being slammed. Our stuff is just flying out. We can't keep it in stock, which meant there were a lot of new gardeners. And what's great, a lot of them got hooked. They're doing it again this year. I'm hearing the same thing from wholesalers and seed distributors. They can't keep things in stock. Fortunately, Green Acres has a good stock, and there's more and more coming in all the time. And now it's just a matter of getting those new gardeners to maybe expand their horizons a little bit and try something new. Maybe try stuff from seed, maybe put in some different plants that they've never tried before. But I still like to talk about the basics, about planting, I won't say trouble-free plants, but let's say easy plants to grow. And we're coming up to the warm season garden time where people are planting tomatoes and peppers and zucchini and marigolds and all sorts of great products. However, it's a little early. It's still February, so the soil is still cold. The days are still short. If you're going to buy tomatoes and peppers now, you might want to wait. And fortunately, Green Acres Nursery and Supply has all sorts of helpers to plant until it's right to plant them outside with row covers and hives and walls of water, and even portable lighting systems that you can grow your plants indoors until it's safe outside. But those tomatoes and peppers are available right now.
Well, those are some great tips, Farmer Fred, and I will admit that last March I was one of those people who went out and started growing some things. I had trouble finding tomato cages. Those were all sold out last year, but my peppers still live today. So I was somewhat successful, and I'm sure with all your knowledge, this podcast is going to be very fun to tune into and share with all these budding gardeners and the ones who already know a few things about getting around the garden. So thank you so much. And for details on the Green Acres Garden podcast with Farmer Fred, visit idiggreenacres.com.
This interview involves commercial content. The products and services featured appear as paid advertising.